Fox Sports.
We are Blackmore. We are Ohio.
Well, it is a lovely Saturday afternoon in downtown Minneapolis, and yes, some folks have made the trip in from greater Cincinnati. Game 2 of this 3-game weekend series. Reds big winners here last night in come-from-behind fashion, trying to make it back-to-back wins over the Minnesota Twins at Target Field today. Hi again, everybody. Alongside Chris Welsh and Jim Day, I'm Tom Brenneman. Welcome, as always, to Reds baseball. And what a night it was last night. They fell behind 5-1. They fell behind 7-3. And then the hits just kept on coming.
Once the offense started rolling last night, especially keyed around Joey Votto, it wasn't going to stop. There were walks, there were home runs. There was Jose Peraza going deep early in the ball game. And it was a fun thing to see. I'm sure a lot of pressure off the hitting coach, Don Long, and the guys at the plate.
Season highs in both runs and hits for the Redlegs, 15 and 20. They've had a big offensive week. And the one guy right there who's really turned his season around after an 0-for-12 start is Jose Peraza.
Well, the Reds have been very patient with Jose Peraza. They realize he's a young player. I know they've got some people that they would rather take a look at, but Peraza is a guy that has played very good defense. He's shortstop. He's coming around offensively. He's putting the bat on the ball. He's become one of the more difficult strikeout guys in this offense. So he's slotted in that number 2 spot right ahead of Joey Votto, and that's a good place to be.
All right, let's take a look at the pitching matchup today. Coming off his best outing of the season is a talented young right-hander from Connecticut, and that is Sal Romano.
Every time Sal takes them out, we talk about what is he going to do in the first inning because he gets so excited out there. The big hard thrower from Connecticut has a nice downhill plane. He throws some very nasty sinking fastballs. You see one right there. He's got a good breaking ball as well, Romano does. If he can control his emotions and back off a little bit early in the ball game, he'll realize how easy it can be by just potting up his fastball and using his breaking ball to keep him off stride.
And his mound opponent today.
Well, a supreme fly ball pitcher. Jake Odorizzi is the guy. He's been traded a lot for a 28-year-old. He most recently from the Tampa Bay Rays. He's a guy that, oddly enough, pitches like a number 1 starter against left-handers and a number 5 starter against right-handers. We'll see what the Reds righties have in store for him today.
All right, when we come back, you may have seen the interview after the game last night that Jim Day had with Joey Votto. It was another classic, and that relationship is something to see. You'll want to check this out when we come back.
Check out their award-winning lineup only at your Tri-State Chevy dealer. And by Skyline Chili, feeling good, it's Skyline time.
Oh, man, we don't listen to them. Come on, Jim. I've heard some comments from some guys saying they'd like to play less, some people saying they'd like to play less games, make less money. I say play more and make more money. Let's play I'll play November and March, another 60 games. Let's do it. What do you say? If it's snowing, if it's sleet, if it's freezing, if it's below 32, I'll take it. Below 0 Celsius, shout out to Canada.
Joey kidding, of course, except for the shout-out to Canada, but why not play more games when you're swinging it like this? Last night, 6 times on base in 6 plate appearances, home run, double, single, couple of walks, hit by pitch, 6-game hitting streak, including home runs in 4 straight games. That is a career high. So 5 days ago, he had no home runs, and all of a sudden, number 19 has heated up. In fact, the entire Reds offense is heated up because the first 21 games, this club was not hitting at all. You check out our Alcanelk storylines for today. Look at the last 5 games compared to the first 21. Runs are way up, average way up. The walks per game up, the on-base percentage up, and the slugging percentage way up as well. They belted out 20 hits last night. What's in store today? Well, the Reds hope it's twin victories versus the Twins. Big Sal goes to the hill. Tom and Chris are with the call next.
Kind of day it would be in Minneapolis. It looks sunny. It is sunny. It's beautiful, but
Comfortably cool, according to the Minnesota gauge of comfortable.
it's about 50. Wind chill, a little less than that, but it is sunny. If you're sitting in the sunshine, it's quite pleasant. In the shade, it's quite chilly. Reds 3-5 since Jim Riggleman took over. Of course, they were 3-18 before he did. Reds have actually won 3 of their last 5 games. Beat Atlanta twice, lost twice, and won here last night. Jim Riggleman's starting lineup presented by Nissan. Has Jesse Winker playing right field today. Peraza at short, Votto at first. Jeanette the cleanup hitter, Suarez at third, and Schebler the DH today. Duvall is in left. Mesoraco gets a start behind the plate. Billy Hamilton in center. And as you mentioned, on the mound for Minnesota, boy, is he a fly ball pitcher indeed, Jake Odorizzi.
Yeah, one of the tops in all of baseball right now. Not a bad list to be on, actually. I mean, there are some very good pitchers that are extreme fly ball pitchers this year. Justin Verlander being one, Max Scherzer being another, Garrett Cole being another, all in the top 10. Rizzi is there, but he's got to figure out a way to keep those fly balls in the ballpark. You see that he has given up 6 home runs already in the 2018 season. Not overpowering with his fastball. His swing and miss pitch is a split finger fastball that bounces in front of home plate or is down around the knees. Young man that came over from Tampa Bay in the offseason. They've slotted him in number 3 in the rotation, and we'll see if he's able to live up to that billing.
You know, the numbers of these two pitchers today are eerily similar. Each has pitched 26 innings. Odorizzi's given up 23 hits. Romano's given up 25. Odorizzi 13 earned runs. Romano 14 earned runs. And you mentioned the home runs. 6 for Odorizzi, 5 for Sal Romano.
Of course, Odorizzi has much more experience in the major leagues. Here he is pitching in his 7th season overall. Came up with the Kansas City Royals after being drafted number 1 by the Milwaukee Brewers, and then traded to Tampa Bay. That's where he spent the bulk of his major league time, including a real good year he had in 2016. The really interesting thing about Odorizzi, and I alluded to it in our open, Tom, is that he's very good historically against left-handers and not so good against right-handers. They call that a reverse split.
The line of the pitch is strike 1 to Jesse Winker, and this one is underway at Target Field in Minneapolis, Minnesota. What a run it's been of late here for this Reds outfielder. Winker ranks among all major league leadoff batters. Number 1 in both on-base percentage and batting average. He comes in with a 9-game hitting streak. That's a career high for Jesse. It's also the longest by a Reds batter so far this season, and during the hitting streak he's batted an even 400. He went around, and that's strike 3 on the high pitch.
You become a high or a fly ball pitcher by pitching up in the zone, and nobody goes higher in the zone than Odorizzi. And it's one of those pitches that you see very well when the ball's coming your way. You track it the entire way because your eyes and your head are close to the path of the ball, but that's just too much out of the strike zone to be able to do much with.
Odorizzi signed a 1-year deal with the Twins, and his first start was pretty good, but the last 2 we brought up earlier, facing 2 good hitting teams in Cleveland and the New York Yankees. He's given up 9 runs in his 9 2/3 innings, and in those 2 starts, 5 of the 6 home runs, which he's allowed. Here's a red-hot Jose Peraza. Batting average all the way up to 286 after starting the year 0 for 12. He's been a .326 batter since that hitless start to the season.
Well, really, as I look out on this field here at Target Field, what a beautiful ballpark. I don't know how they grow grass as cold as it has been here this spring, but it is bright green. The field is in excellent condition. A lot of fans out today enjoying some sunshine. Great day for baseball.
Someone fouled off and out of play just above our broadcast booth, and it's 1 ball and 2 strikes on Jose Peraza. Peraza, a career night last night, his first career 2-homer game. He tied career highs, scoring 3 runs and coming up with 4 base hits. And he chases away, and it's back-to-back strikeouts. Minnesota defensively behind Odorizzi. Rosario, Kepler, and Grossman in the outfield, still without Buxton. A rare day off for Sano at third. Escobar moves into play there. Adrianza gets a nod at shortstop. Dozier and Morrison again on the right side, and the first start of this series for Mitch Garver behind the plate. Votto, first pitch swinging high into the bright sunshine, and the left fielder comes in to get it. 1-2-3 for the Minnesota right-hander. Sal Romano, his last 2 starts, has had perfect first innings. He'll try and make it 3 in a row when we come back. being so young. All right, here's a Twins lineup under manager Paul Molitor, presented by Nissan. Dozier, Mauer, Rosario, Escobar, Kepler, Grossman, Morrison, Garver, Adrianza. Getting the start at shortstop. Sal Romano, start number 6. He's 1 up and 2 down on the season. Brought up earlier. First inning woes early in the year against Washington, Pittsburgh, and St. Louis, but his last 2 starts, he's had perfect first innings, and he's coming off his best outing of the year. That was against the Atlanta Braves on Monday night. Reds bludgeoned the Braves that night 10-4. He went 6, allowed only 4 hits and 1 earned run. Straight up in the air off the bat of Dozier. Looking into that sunshine, it's not windy at all today like it was here last night. And that's out number 1 on the first pitch of the inning. Reds on defense presented by Floyd. You've already seen Duvall make that play. Hamilton and Winker join him in the outfield. Regular group in the infield when everybody's healthy. And well-earned day off today for Tucker Barnhart after that 4-hour game last night. Talk about rare. That was only the 9th 4-hour game in Minnesota Twins franchise history. And you're talking about a franchise that started in 1961.
A lot of nibbling going on last night. Not only by the pitchers on the mound, but by the fans in the stands. They had plenty of time to sample everything those concessionaires were offering.
Well, you're not lying. Here's Joe Mauer. 290 batter without a home run, 6 runs batted in. Slow roller to the right side. This should be easy for Jeanette. Glove flip, and quickly 2 away on 3 pitches for Sal Romano.
We referred to these early in the telecast, Tom, about Sal Romano, and Sal Romano is not alone in this statistic where you have a hard time in the first inning. Sometimes it's hard to translate your stuff in the bullpen out to the game mound. You get all juiced up, you hear the national anthem, You're ready to go, and you can't control your heartbeat. But he's been a lot better here the last few starts, including today. 2 up, 2 down.
Here's Eddie Rosario, first pitch swinging, fouls it out of play. Rosario, a couple of hits, couple of extra base hits. 2 runs batted in last night at a RBI double in that 5-run first inning against Luis Castillo, and then he had a home run off Raisel Iglesias. Mop up duty in the 9th. Straight up in the air, and Romano has a 3rd consecutive start where he has a 1-2-3 opening inning. Well done for Big Sal. End of 1, no score in downtown Minneapolis. It delivers an all-new franchise mode, so much more. Learn about RBIGame.com. Rated E for everyone. Well, certainly everyone enjoying this bright sunshine here in Minneapolis. It was just 2 weekends ago. They were snowed out 3 straight games of a series. 3 in a row. Last night was the first time they had played in this ballpark since the 12th of April. They hosted, in quotations, 2 games down in Puerto Rico against Cleveland. But they went from Puerto Rico, flew into Tampa, played 3 games there, and then swept over the weekend by the New York Yankees in the Bronx. They've lost 8 straight games. It's the longest losing streak since dropping 13 in a row back in August of 2016. That was a year where Paul Molitor's team lost over 100 games. They went from that team a year later that won 85 games and was one of the 2 wild card teams. They lost to the Yankees in that 1-game playoff last October. Scooter Gennett leading things off for the Reds against Odorizzi here in the 2nd inning of a scoreless game. Two balls, 2 strikes on the Reds' second baseman. Right side of the infield, it will be Dozier to make the call in front of Logan Morrison. That's 4 in a row retired by Odorizzi to begin the game.
Yeah, 2 strikeouts, 2 fly balls for Odorizzi, including that pop-up. He had a great start to the season when he pitched his very first game against the Baltimore Orioles. He struggled a little bit since then.
Eugenio Suarez came back off the disabled list with that fractured thumb 2 days ago, went hitless in 4 at-bats in the finale against Atlanta. But boy, did he find the stroke here last night. 4 hits and 6 at-bats, scored twice, knocked in a run, and 3 singles and a double.
And really, inside those numbers you just mentioned, Tom, what I really like is that 2 of his base hits were right and right center field. The other base hit was up the middle for a ground ball, very well hit. But when he starts using the whole field, that's when he's seeing the ball well.
Hot smash, nice play at third by Escobar, and he takes a double away from Suarez.
Well, last night we saw Sano, their big, strong, burly third baseman, playing with a great arm. Escobar's in there today. Sano's got a little bit of an injury bug, and he makes a nice play on a ball that's right down the line.
He's got a good arm.
You know, that's a play that you see made by big league infielders a lot, and because you see it a lot, you don't appreciate how difficult that is. I mean, just to put the glove on the backhand, if you notice how low he got his head and his eyes right on the level of the ground ball.
This ball is driven into deep right center field by Scott Schebler, and that will sail out of here a home run.
God, is he strong.
Schebler with 3 home runs now in 39 at bats this season, and he gives the Reds a 1-0 lead here in the 2nd inning.
I mean, just as strong as a bull. And he's also a guy unusual for left-handers, but he likes the ball up, although that ball was kept pretty much center cut. Perfect spot to lay a whipping on. A little get-ahead curveball right there. A lot of times hitters are just going to spit on that pitch. They don't want to swing at a slow curve to start the at-bat off. And Schebler was ready.
So now Adam Duvall, he has 3 home runs and 8 runs, or 13 runs batted in. Duvall had 3 hits, knocked in a couple of runs, scored twice here last night. 1 ball, 1 strike on Adam Duvall. So that's now, what, 7 home runs in 27 plus innings surrendered by Odorizzi.
You know, being an extreme fly ball pitcher has its advantages, but the last couple of years with the way the baseball has been wound a little bit tighter and traveling farther, it was a bad year to be a fly ball pitcher last year. 30 of them last year, career high.
Short right, Grossman to get it, but the Reds are on the board thanks to Scott Schebler. He's hit a couple of home runs now since coming off the disabled list after a lengthy stay. 1-0 Cincinnati. Ohio on Instagram to relive great moments and get insights from the players. Follow Fox Sports Ohio on Instagram. Scott Schebler gives Sal Romano a 1-0 lead as Minnesota comes to bat in the last of the second inning. And it's Eduardo Escobar. Native Venezuelan takes down low, ball 1. 300 batter with 3 home runs and 11 batted in. Romano, his 3rd straight start with a perfect first inning. There's a lot to like about the future of Sal Romano. And of course, we have no idea how he'll pitch today, but we saw him, in the rotation regularly the second half of the season last year. He led all the starters in innings pitched during that stretch, made 14 starts, and he got better as the season went on. His last 8 starts of the year, he had a 3.17 earned run average and had 4 quality starts. Two on Escobar. Way inside, the count runs full.
Boy, that is a good pitch. I mean, Devin Mesoraco wanted it inside, and you don't want to miss out over the plate. That was the problem that Luis Castillo had last night. You miss inside off the dish, come right back in there again.
In the air, not sure anybody's going to be able to get to this one. No, it's out of play. Schebler the DH today. Boy, as intense as he is, that's got to be tough sitting down. I mean, look, he's wearing that gum out.
Maybe they have a treadmill down there in the runway.
Oh, I'm sure they have one not too far away. That's the thing about all these new ballparks. Not only do they have beautiful clubhouses for the players, but the weight rooms that they make available to both the home team and the visiting team when they come in. Strike 3 called on the outside corner. First strikeout of the afternoon for Sal Romano.
Well, he's really spotting up his fastball. You know what set that up, though, is the ability to throw the ball on the first base side of home plate. And I keep kind of saying it like a broken record, but if you can pitch to both sides of the plate, then you can get your strikeouts when you want to down and away. Pitch number 8 on the box tracks, right down in the outside corner. But if you just go to one half of the plate and you're only pitching to basically a width of about 4 baseballs, and it gives the hitter just so much easier time to zone in on that spot. Love it right there. Love that pitch. Of course, when you're 6'5", 270, you want to come on out here? Come on.
Came back down and in again.
But that's not a pitch that is going to wake a hitter up, say, hey, he's throwing at me. It's not up around his head or his neck. That is a well-placed fastball in there. Now you've opened up the outside a little bit. And that's where they're going.
Fastball at 96 miles per hour. Tardy was Kepler, the Berlin, Germany born and raised Minnesota outfielder. Told the story here last night. Grew up there. Both of his parents danced in the ballet in Berlin, Germany. And he grew up there and finished his last couple of years in high school. But before he left, being a non-North American player, he actually signed a professional contract and came back and played baseball in the States. There's a roller. Back to Romano. That just chewed him up in on the hands, and that's 5 straight retired by Sal Romano.
Yeah, interesting time when you bring that up about international signings and those that are subject to the amateur baseball draft, which is coming up in June. You know, if you're in North America, including Canada, of course, or Puerto Rico, you are subject to the Major League draft. If you are from an island like, you know, the Dominican Republic, or from Panama or Venezuela or anywhere else, basically you can be signed as a free agent. Rules in Japan, if you're already a professional player, are different. I'd have to consult one of the Reds front office people for those rules, but it gets complicated. But
well,
basically,
it
that's
used to
the way
be,
it
I
breaks
know,
out.
over there you had to play a certain number of years before they would let you out of a contract. Now that has changed in recent years. That's why you saw so many of those Japanese pitchers primarily that came over here, Hideo Nomo among others, where they had already pitched 10 years in Japan before they came to the United States.
Yeah, he came over here after being a 10-year veteran, won Rookie of the Year.
It's funny, Jim Riggleman and I were sharing a story. He was the manager of the Cubs the first time we went in there. I was announcing their games at the time, and that was Hideo Nomo's rookie year. Went out to Dodger Stadium, and they were selling out everywhere he went, he being Nomo and the Dodgers. But boy, when he pitched in Los Angeles, it was a sight to see. And Riggleman and I were remembering that game yesterday afternoon. It's incredible. Scooter able to knock it down, stays with it, and gets he out at first. Nice play by Scooter Jeanette. Really nice play. Perfect through 2 is Romano, and the Reds have a 1-0 lead.
Reds, and this place is special to him because back in 2014, he was an all-star. Look out. If we remember this almost took his arm off. Had one at bat that game, was 0 for 1, but an eventful moment behind the plate, but obviously special to come back here at Target Field. His only all-star appearance.
And really his only healthy season. And when I say healthy, even that year, you may recall, he was on the disabled list twice. He drove in 80 runs, had the 25 home runs, but that was not even in 120 games during that year. And we know it's well documented, all the surgeries and injuries since then. Shoulder surgeries, hip surgeries. And Devin in the final year of that 4-year contract that he signed following that all-star season. Getting the start today. Straight up in the air. And drifting into foul territory. Man, it's a bright sunny day up there, and that ball's in the air a long time. A couple of those in the game already today.
Yeah, you said earlier, Tom, everybody in the ballpark happy to see the sun out, maybe except for some of the fielders who are fielding those high pop-ups. Easy to lose one today.
Billy Hamilton was on base 3 times last night. Remarkably was walked twice. It was an interesting point, and Dick Bremer, the longtime television voice of the Minnesota Twins, does such a great job and such a good guy. He made the point. I never thought of it, Chris. I don't know if you did while we were sitting here last night for 4 hours. There's Dick on the right, and that's Justin Morneau, a.k.a. Paul Bunyan, one of the great nicknames of all time, Paul Bunyan. But anyway, Hamilton had 6 plate appearances here in the game last night as a number 9 batter. I don't know if I've ever seen that in a 9-inning game.
It's the one thing I didn't think of last night.
I know you thought of everything. That ball hit Hamilton. He's out. Yep, he's out. That ball hit him.
Out of the batter's box. You know, one of the rare occasions for Billy, you know, he's really committed to try to put the bunt as part of his game. And what he's trying to do is bunt and pull that ball down the first base line. We get a great shot of it right here. Once he's out of the box, and he is when his left foot lands, his right foot is out of the box, and he is in fair territory, hit by the ball. You know what he was telling me before the game, the most difficult thing about drag bunting like that, pulling the ball with you, is trying to stay still long enough to lay the bunt down. He has such a habit and tendency of kind of running and bunting at the same time, and by the time the ball makes contact, it's a good 3 feet from where his eyes are, and it's a very difficult thing to do.
You know, it seems like we have a lot of announcers rotating in and out from time to time. I'm not sure anybody outside the Yankees has more announcers than the Twins. Working with Dick Bremer. Bert Blyleven,
Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer, and boy, one of the great characters in all of baseball even now.
One of the best curveballs maybe in the history of the game. Man, could that thing was just a snapper.
They have Roy Smalley that does some games for them. They have Jack Morris. There's another great pitcher. Of course, he grew up right over in St. Paul, Minnesota. Jack Morris. Is Morris still calling games for both the Tigers and the Twins? Because a year or two ago he was doing both teams. Never heard of that before.
Well, there was a similar situation that the Reds had actually with Jamie Quirk a few years ago. He was working for the Reds in their front office, maybe as an advisor or maybe a part-time minor league instructor, and doing pre and post game shows, and maybe including some analyst work for the Kansas City Royals in the same year.
How about that? You and I ought to look into that gig. Moonlight guy like you in LA.
A single. Let's take a look at the StatCast look. Exit velocity, keep your eye on that. Long home run to right field, high, majestic home run. Coming off the bat, 101 miles per hour. Later in the game, a sizzling line drive down the right field line ends up as a single. So he couldn't have hit that as hard, right? Well, take a look at the StatCast velocity, 112. So hitting the ball hard is good. Hitting it where they ain't is he better.
And he drives this ball to the warning track in left field on the first pitch from Romano here in the third inning. Reds in front 1-0 on a Scott Schebler home run. That single that we just showed, I'm not so sure that's not the hardest hit ball I've seen this year.
I would love to have seen that baseball because I can guarantee it was flattened on one side.
But he drove that thing almost into the wall.
Yeah.
Is that a ground rule double if it sticks in a cement wall?
That's a good question.
It is a good question. It's not like sticking in the ivy, you know, Wrigley, where it's a ground rule double as long as you don't reach in there to try and get it. Speaking of Wrigley, they have day baseball today again. Milwaukee in town as the co-leaders in the National League Central along with St. Louis. Both those teams losing last night. Cardinals losing in Pittsburgh and the Brewers dropping a one-run decision to Chicago. They're underway scoreless in the second inning. A lot of day baseball today. Makes you scratch your head and wonder when you see teams, especially cold weather teams, that in the month of April schedule night games on Saturday. The Reds play all day games in the month of April. Most teams do. The one team that does not, we've already learned that lesson the hard way, the Pittsburgh Pirates. But day games today in San Francisco, Washington D.C. and over in the American League, Kansas City, Boston, Toronto, even though they have a dome, Cleveland a late afternoon start. Three and two on Mitch Garver, the Minnesota catcher. This one will stay fair down the right field line into the corner. And this will be a two-out double for the Minnesota catcher, and that's the first one-out double. First base runner of the game for the Twins.
Well, Garver's a young man that came up through the Twins organization. He was drafted in 2013 in the 9th round, and he makes the big leagues here and just hits the ball right down the right field line. What's interesting about that is that the Reds catcher Stuart Turner was also drafted by the Twins in the same year. Turner was taken in the 3rd round. Reds, of course, picked him up in the Rule 5 draft a couple of years ago, and he's down in the minor leagues this year. The Twins went heavy on catching and ultimately thought that Garver would be a better player than Turner, made Turner available, and that's the way the Reds got him in the Rule 5.
All right, so now the tying run out there in scoring position after the double. And here's Adrianza. And a swing and a foul ball back out of play. 1 ball and 1 strike. Javier Adrianza. One of 2 Venezuelans in the Minnesota Twins starting lineup today. You know, it was interesting. We didn't get around to telling the story. It was my fault when we saw the Atlanta Braves coming into town, and that minor league player of the year made his major league debut in Cincinnati, Ronald Acuna Jr. He is from Venezuela. And in the minor leagues, he'd always worn number 24. But when he got to the major leagues, he requested number 13 to honor some of the all-time great players. One of them, of course, being Davy Concepcion, Omar Vizquel. I believe Ozzie Guillen wore number 13, if I'm not mistaken, another Venezuelan. And so that's why he is wearing that number to start his big league career.
And it probably started with Concepcion because the guys that you named played after Davy Concepcion.
I think Luis Aparicio was before Concepcion.
Okay.
I mean, I know he was before Concepcion.
Yeah.
I mean, to wear that number, that's what I meant.
I didn't realize that Aparicio wore 13.
We'll look into that. I think that's right. Hooked into right field, but foul. No, he wore number 11. And then when Omar Vizquel came, he wanted to honor Aparicio when Vizquel in 2010 came to the White Sox. And Aparicio said, no problem, you can wear it. So he wore number 11.
Adrianza gets the start today. The Twins are missing their number 1 shortstop, Jorge Polanco, who was suspended for 80 games at the beginning of the season this year for testing positive for performance-enhancing drugs. So they're giving some other guys an opportunity to play a little bit. Polanco only 24 years old, I think the same age as the batter you're looking at. Make that Adrianza's 29. I'm sorry. And when we've seen him play before, it's been with the Giants. Good block.
Extended at bat here by the Minnesota shortstop, and now the count goes full.
Sometimes it's really overlooked is that when you play in the American League Park and interleague games, you've got that DH, and even if the DH isn't Jim Tomei, for instance, you still have an extra everyday hitter in the lineup. This is normally the pitcher spot right here.
And there's ball 4.
Tried to come right inside. He's all over the edges of the strike zone is Romano, and just misses with that pitch. Well, I just really like the way he's able to pitch at both sides of the plate. In the long run, that will really pay off.
All right, so Romano, his first jam in the early going. A 1-out double by the number 8 hitter, a walk to the number 9 hitter, and now you roll back to the top in Dozier. Solid player. It's been to 1 All-Star game, and that was a game played in Cincinnati a couple of summers ago. He had 1 at bat in that game, and in the All-Star game hit a home run. So fond memories for Brian Dozier at Great American Ballpark. Already 150 plus home runs for Dozier, 90 plus stolen bases, and only 2 other active players able to do that in their first 6 years. And of course, many feel Trout is the game's best all-around player. And most that see him regularly will tell you it's not even close. Got in tight on Dozier there, and the pop-up for the 2nd out of the inning. 1 more out to go. And a tough out, Joe Mauer. He hit a slow jam shot roller to the second baseman Jeanette, who made the glove flip to Joey Votto, retiring him in the 1st inning. Reds leading 1-0, last of the 3rd, 2 on, 2 out. Strike 1 on the outside corner to Mauer.
6-time All-Star, 3 times he's led the league in batting average. Yeah, we mentioned this the other day, Tom. He was hit in the head with a pitch, I think, in 2013. And last year was the first year he really began to put some numbers up again. Back over the 300 mark in batting average.
And of course, he had a lot of problems with concussions when he was catching. Many, it's been so long now, forget that Mauer came up as a catcher.
Lifetime on base percentage up over 390.
Two balls and a strike to Joe Mauer. 3-1. Mauer grew up in these parts. He went to a very famous high school, the same high school, in fact, as Paul Molitor. Creighton-Durham Hall, just outside Minneapolis. Great football player. Led his team a couple of years to the Minnesota Class 5A state championship game, once winning it. And he was the national high school football player of the year. That's how good he was, swinging a foul ball back out of play.
Well, he was such a good athlete. The Twins picked him in the first round, not only in the first round, but the #1 player taken overall out of high school. And that was a draft that included Mark Pryor, Mark Teixeira. Reds that year ended up taking in the 20th pick in the first round, Jeremy Sowers.
Again, it's Scooter Gennett. Second time Romano will get Mauer on a ground ball, and that'll end the inning. We'll get back to that draft. I know you had a few more comments about that.
It is over 12 start to the season, and last night a first, not one but 2 home runs, his first multi-home run game of his career. And man, as he turned it up offensively, hitting in that number 2 hole, hitting above 300 since. 322, 6 doubles, 2 home runs, 8 strikeouts, and he's played a pretty solid shortstop as well. He's improved a lot, even though this reporter made a mistake last night in the postgame. I asked Jim Riggleman, hey, how's he settling in at second base? as he lays down a bunt here. And to follow up on that, Jim Riggleman today, he's kind of settling into the position. We go into the pregame interview today, and he handed me the scorecard and said, hey, you need to look at the scorecard. Peraza's at shortstop.
Yeah, well, you know. I mean, between Jim Riggleman doing that to you, and then, of course, the time you spent again with Joey Votto before the game, kind of reliving that interview last night. That was good stuff. It really was good stuff last night, Jim. You know, we weren't able to tell you that after the game, and I'm sure, you know, you being a guy who likes being on social media, you've heard from a lot of fans about another interview that you seem to just get the very, very best of everything, really, whether it's on the field or off the field, out of Joey Votto.
Well, I just have an open mic. I think it would happen with anyone down here.
I don't agree with that, and I say it all the time. Maybe I never say it to you. There's a line drive to center field. But in case you missed it, here are a couple of snippets from Jim Day's interview after the game last night with Joey.
Oh, man, we don't listen to them. Come on, Jim. I say play more and make more money. Let's play I'll play November and March. Another 60 games. Let's do it. What do you say? If it's snowing, if it's sleet, if it's freezing, if it's below 32, I'll take it. Below 0 Celsius, shout out to Canada.
I mean, Jim, it really is just exceptional work, and you've worked hard at building those relationships with Joey, and we've talked about Brandon Phillips. It's great stuff. So Votto retired on a laser to center field sinking line drive. And here's Scooter Gennett. He popped up to the second baseman his only time up. Reds lead 1-0. Scott Schebler clubbing a home run with 2 outs in the second inning. This one in the air to short left. The shortstop waving off the left fielder. Adrianza squeezes it tightly to gone after a leadoff bunt single by Peraza.
You know, let's check in on the booth, shall we? You guys check in a lot on me, and we'll see that I am without a coat down here. And
Whose
once
fault
again,
is that?
the poodles are nice and warm upstairs. Behind the glass, heated up there. Balmy.
Amen,
balmy.
brother. Amen.
The other half of the booth enjoys some fresh air, Jim.
It's still coming in. I'm still getting the fresh air over here.
As opposed to the hot air that's coming from your left.
You said that, not me. Ball one on Eugenio Suarez. Straight up in the air, straight away center field. Lots of room out there. Backpedaling is Kepler. And after a bunt single to start the inning, Odorizzi retires the next 3. Still 1-0 Reds. Ohio brought to you by Cincinnati Children's, changing the outcome together. And by your local Ford dealer, Ford. Go further. Resident Fox Sports Ohio like to send out a very special happy birthday wish to Betty Page from Cincinnati, former Rosie Red. Has lived in Cincinnati her entire life, 86 years young today. Happy birthday, Betty Page. And our good friend John Browdy, who works in our television truck regularly on the home front. He and all of us would like to send out happy birthday wishes to his mom, Marilyn Browdy, 95 years young.
Wow.
Marilyn, happy birthday. She's with friends and family today. Hope both of you are having a great day. The wisdom of the knowledge of those like those two ladies is just extraordinary. Here's a base hit to center field by Eddie Rosario, number 3 hole hitter. And that's a second hit for Minnesota against Sal Romano in this 1-0 game. Escobar struck out looking his first time up. Rosario has 2 stolen bases. He's not been thrown out. Real good crowd on hand here today. They announced, what, a little over 25,000 last night. There's certainly more than that here today. And they've all tried to find their way into the sun. The only areas where you see some pockets of empty seats would be over to our right up the first base line in the lower bowl and the upper tank, where you have lots of the shade, because it's a significantly different feeling on this Saturday afternoon between sunshine and cover. Mile-per-hour fastball down in the zone, and Escobar comes up empty. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Another foul ball off to the third base side out of play. It'll stay at 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Romano is doing a nice job of being able to elevate the fastball when he wants to. He's going upstairs in that last pitch. But his bread and butter is that power sinking fastball that he throws down around the hollow of the knees. Big guy, high arm slot, has really good downward plane. They wanted this one inside.
Lights it off again.
You know, the interesting thing really about Sal Romano, when you just start, you know, baking his stuff, you start analyzing his fastball, the speed, the spin, the movement, and so on, You would think at his velocity he'd have a lot more strikeouts than he does. He never really was a high strikeout pitcher even in the minor leagues. Only has one today, but he's been very effective. Ooh, could have gone either way. Strikeouts are nice to have. They help you get picked up in higher rounds in fantasy drafts. But they cost you a lot of pitches in the long run.
Runner goes, and that is a fair ball into the corner. And on his way to third, they're going to wave him around. Schebler, or Winker rather, dropped the ball twice. It allows a run to score, and it allows Escobar to go all the way to third base.
Probably go down as a two-base hit and an error on the right fielder Winker. I think the lead runner Rosario was going to score anyway. He was being waved around without stop. Ted Barrett has to do a little dance to get out of the way of this one. Winker comes in and tries to barehand it, but he's got one eye on the ball, one eye on the base runner. And that'll send the batter runner into third.
So there's indeed a double and an error, no RBI for Escobar. Infield in, 1-1 game. Kepler, a big swing right on that pitch, fouls it back to the screen to even the count of a ball and a strike. So Minnesota on the short end of a one-run game until this fourth inning. Gets a single, a double, along with an error to tie it, and the go-ahead run with nobody out 90 feet away. 1-1 to Max Kepler.
Or if you're going to get formal with Kepler, his name is actually Maximilian Kepler Rosicki.
Love that name, Maximilian. It's a big league name. In the air, short center. I don't think they're going to test Hamilton here. No way. Right there is a perfect illustration about how really impressive it is when any center fielder throws out a runner at the plate when they're coming in from basically straight away from center, and that's because of the mound. Steve Finley was a great defensive player for years and years and years. San Diego and Arizona primarily, won multiple Gold Gloves. I don't think I've ever seen anybody long toss more than he used to, 2-3 days a week to keep that arm strong. But then he would go out to the outfield and practice all the time throwing that ball where it went just past the mound and one hop to the plate. It's a tough throw. One away in the inning, and to go ahead and run at third.
Yeah, interesting you say that he practiced that, because that's an art. That just not comes from arm strength. And I think if there was one out, they may have tested Billy Hamilton right there for exactly that reason, because the mound is in the way.
And you saw in the throw in, Hamilton's first bounce hit behind the mound. Now that wasn't a bad play. The danger is if it hits the mound, because it theoretically could go straight up in the air. Then you got no chance.
Well, it hit the grass before the mound and scooted right by the cutoff man, Joey Votto.
Fastball in on Robbie Grossman. Fouls it out of play, and it's 2 balls and a strike. Romano trying to keep that go-ahead run right there at third. Well, they will definitely test the arm of Winker. There is no doubt about that. He's much deeper in the outfield. Winker will cut it loose. Here comes the throw to the plate. Good throw, but easily getting in time is Escobar. And the Twins have their first lead of the game at 2-1. So that error is a big play in this game.
Well, it cost the extra run right there. They would have scored the first one, but not the second one.
I mean, it's a curious decision, and anybody who follows the Reds would certainly agree. Obviously within the manager's right, but when you're playing interleague baseball, you can put your best offensive team in the game, and it can give you the flexibility sometimes at the same time to put your best defensive team in the game. And Schebler is a far superior defender in right field than Jesse Winker. It's not a knock on Winker. It's just the truth.
Well, had Winker simply gloved the ball and picked it up more conventionally rather than trying to barehand it. I mean, I don't think it really comes down to outfield skills. I think it comes down to, executing a basic play. And how sometimes you take little things for granted that end up being a big item in a baseball game. Added an extra run here.
Now, the game last night, Schebler was in right field and Winker was a designated hitter. Logan Morrison thought that pitch was high, thought it was ball 4, flips his bat away, and he'll come back to a 3-2 count.
I think he wanted time. There you see him look back at the umpire and wave his arm and thought that pitch was up there. Twice denied.
Ball scalded down the right field line. That was much like the single we showed you earlier this young man had in the game last night.
Yeah, you might not want to barehand one of his foul balls. 112 miles per hour coming off the bat last night.
Yeah,
there you go.
that's why you don't do it.
May want to ice that from the inside.
That's all for the Twins. They get a couple of runs, a couple of hits, and a big error. 2-1 at the end of 4.
Run his first time up, back in the second. He just blistered the baseball. Hanging breaking ball right in the middle of the plate, and he took it out of here for his 3rd home run of the season. Check out our IGS Bringing the Energy. Will face Jake Odorizzi once again. He's now 3 for 4, a double, and 2 home runs off of Odorizzi, and he's back in there for his second hacks.
Thank you, Jim Day. Schebler to be followed by Adam Duvall and Devin Mesoraco. Odorizzi pitching with a lead for the first time today after his team scores twice in the last of the fourth, and now we're set for inning number 5.
Second at bat of the game for Scott Shepard. Last night at this time, he was stepping to the plate for his third at bat, same inning. That was an inning, however, in the fourth or the fifth that the Reds scored a boatload of runs, 6 of them.
It's too bad we're not going to get Joey Votto to the plate here in this 5th inning, because our producer Josh Hall reminds me during this stretch of 4 consecutive games where Votto has hit a home run, his first 4 home runs of this year, every one of them have come in the 5th inning. Schebler gone on strikes, and that's the 3rd of the game for Odorizzi. He struck out the first 2 batters of the game, and that's the first since. Here comes Duvall. Cubbies have taken a 1-0 lead over Milwaukee. That game in the 4th inning at Wrigley Field. They made a scoring decision change, and Chris, it gets back to something you pointed out. You thought that they were going to send Rosario all the way on that double by Escobar in the just completed 4th inning. The original scoring decision was double, error 9, which is still true, but they did not give Escobar a run batted in. Now they have. It's probably the right call. Duvall takes high, 1 ball and 1 strike. Three and 2 now on Duvall, who popped up to right field his first time up. Mesoraco on deck with Minnesota in front by a run. Here in the top of the 5th inning. And Odorizzi turns the payoff pitch loose, and we'll do it again. Three balls and 2 strikes on Duvall. And there's ball 4. First walk of the game issued by this Minnesota right-hander. And right now, how about a quick message from Miami Valley Gaming?
Get ready to get lucky.
Reds hoping to get lucky against Odorizzi here in the top of the 5th inning. A 1-out walk to Duvall, and that'll bring up Mesoraco. He popped up to the first baseman Logan Morrison, his only time up today. One ball and one strike to count on Mesoraco. Short lead over there by Adam. He does have one stolen base this year in his only attempt. Breaking ball sweeps outside. 2-1 on Devin. Reds' only run came with 2 outs and nobody on in the 2nd inning. Scott Schebler with a long home run off the facing of the 2nd deck in right center field. But the Twins tie it and take the lead with a pair in the bottom of the 4th. 2-1 pitch, and now 2-2.
It's one thing about facing a pitcher that excels in throwing that high fastball, being a fly ball pitcher, that he's not really concentrating on the one pitch that could get him a ground ball and get him out of this inning. The most likely pitch he would throw to do that would be that split finger pitch that he's come up with, to see if he couldn't get Mesoraco to hit one on the dirt. And it might be this one right here.
Well, he got a ground ball.
That was an off-speed pitch at 86. Devin has a lot of movement for a guy who is as strong as he is. As the pitch comes into the plate, you can see him kind of dip a little bit, trying to get in a little bit more compact position to hit, which is fine as long as you keep your head still when you're tracking the baseball.
That ball is hammered into left center field, and Mesoraco hits it off the wall. Devin will go into second base. On to third goes Duvall, and the Reds in business. Mesoraco picking up his first 2-base hit of this season.
Well, an extended at bat where he spoiled a lot of good pitches that Odorizzi threw him in order to finally get one that was hanging in his zone. Garver, the catcher, wanted it down and away, and it just kind of floats right back over the center of the plate. You got to feel at the very least right here the Reds pick up one with a sacrifice fly, maybe a ground ball to either the shortstop or second baseman. Corner infielders are playing even with the bag.
All right, so let's see if Hamilton can bring in at the minimum the tying run here. And time is called by somebody. I'm not quite sure who. It didn't look like it was Billy. Maybe it was. Hamilton had a run scoring triple in the 5th inning here last night when the Reds scored 6 times. And that tied a season high for a single inning. Hamilton down strike 1. Oh, and 1 on Billy. Big situation here for the Red center fielder, and now he's behind 0-2. Tying run is Adam Duvall. Down at third base. Go ahead run is Mesoraco at second. 1 out. Hamilton had a pitch to hit right there. I mean, that was left, to quote the cowboy next door, who we can overhear from time to time in these booths in Minnesota, right down Broadway.
Well, he's thrown them all fastballs in this at bat, trying to elevate it, maybe to get Billy to swing and miss on one up. And if he does hit it, perhaps get a pop up in the infield.
Well, you just don't see Hamilton choke up, you know, or anybody else for that matter, except for only the best hitter on the team, who does it all the time. And this is not going to bring in a run. He got exactly what you said, Chris Welsh. Pitch up, he chases it up, it goes straight up, and now second and third with 2 outs in the inning.
You could kind of see in that at bat how Odorizzi was working Hamilton, throwing it a little bit higher each pitch, and Billy kind of continuing to find, you know, his ability to swing at it out of the strike zone. And if he made contact with it, there's no way you're going to hit it anywhere.
So a quick trip to the mound, and maybe, you know, checking in with the pitcher saying, you know, what do you want to do here? You want to try to go after Winker, who has struck out and flied out to center. He's a left-handed batter. Garvin Alston is the pitching coach, and you know, you can go that route, or you can walk him and take your chances with the right-handed batting Peraza.
Well, you know, given the fact that in his career the pitcher Jake Odorizzi has been so good against left-handed hitters, it's odd to think, but that's the way it goes for him. That they're probably more likely to pitch against Winker, although Winker's a superior hitter to Peraza, and he's left-handed, just because that's what Odorizzi excels at. Let's see if that works out. That's what,
high.
And that's the spot that Winker chased the first time up. He chased a couple of pitches up out of the zone, struck out easily to lead the game off. Last time up, a fly ball to center field. So why walk him intentionally when you can just throw 3 or 4 high ones and see if he chases?
Well, he doesn't chase either one of the first 2 pitches up above the letters, and now they're going to go ahead and intentionally walk him after falling behind 2-0, and he doesn't chase either one.
You know, some guys, they say, okay, make the guy get the ball up. Make the pitcher get the ball up. Don't chase that ball down in the dirt. Against Odorizzi, you say, make him get it down.
Peraza, 1 of 2, struck out swinging in the first inning. He put down a bunt out in front of the plate on the grass, and the pitcher came down to try and get it on one knee and throw to first at the same time, but the throw was in the dirt, and Peraza given a bunt single. They're loaded with 2 outs. Oh, he jumped all over that pitch.
Look out, Billy Hatcher.
Billy's still quick as a cat down there, though.
Oh yeah, like a big puma.
Puma, like that. Puma. That's his new nickname. Nothing and 1 the count on Jose Peraza. Jose, he really liked that pitch. He's upset with himself that he wasn't able to put that one in play.
Well, that's the one that he likes to drop into right field, and more than likely Odorizzi will go back out there again. He didn't have nearly as good a swing on a pitch going away from him as he does that low and inside pitch. See how his head kind of floats over the plate right there, loses the strength in his core. I'd be surprised if they do anything but waste one down and away right here and see if Peraza chases.
Had another good pitch to hit there. I mean, those last 2 are center cut. Bases loaded, 2 outs. Reds down a run.
Early in the game, but still a very big pitch coming up right here.
0-2 on Jose Peraza. And a fastball is high, and he doesn't chase it. See what Peraza's done in these situations so far this year. Pretty good. A chance to tie it or give his team the lead with the bases loaded and 2 outs in the 5th. And again, he does not chase a high fastball. This figures to be the action pitch in the at-bat here at 2-2. Now, Odorizzi's been around long enough where he's not scared to death of a 3-2 pitch. But obviously, runners get started. You got a lot going on. This generally tends to be the decision pitch.
Pitchers call it decision pitch. Hitters call it the action pitch. Umpires call timeout.
And now Peraza's going to fix both of his batting gloves. And he'll get in the box. 2-2 the count. Duvall, Mesoraco, Winker covering the bases. Straight up in the air, and the Reds are going to leave him loaded. Dozier out there to get it, called off by the shortstop. And the Reds strand 3. It's a 1-run game after 4.5.
Mobile. Javier Baez, when you're going good, it's going good. Against the Brewers, a sun-induced double. No one can find it. Arcia went a long way, but that RBI double by Baez in the 3rd inning not only gave the Cubs a 1-0 lead, but Baez has an 11-game hitting streak during that stretch, .417 batting average.
Tell you what, that guy's a player. I mean, you know, he can rub you the wrong way because he plays with a lot of passion, and guys who tend to do that show a lot of emotion. They can, you know, they're the kind of guys you love them or hate them. They play on your team, you love them. They play on the other team, you don't like them. But he is a player. And I don't know about you, Chris, but when we first saw him come to the big leagues, and it's now a 3-1 game, as Mitch Garver, who doubled his first time up, homers, leading off the Minnesota 5th.
Well, they hit 17 home runs in AAA Rochester last year, had 1 coming into this ball game this year. And gets number 2. You know, Tom, I was about to say as this inning began, We always say that when your team scores a run, you come out there in defense the next inning, and it's a momentum inning. You want to shut them down. Well, the Reds nearly scored, but didn't. This is also a momentum inning right now, and the Twins are taking advantage.
Tell you, the bottom part of the order, the last 2 hitters in this lineup have been on base. All 4 plate appearances. A double and a home run by Garver, and a walk, and now a double by Adrianza.
You know, as a pitcher, you can't get emotionally tied to the rally of your team offensively. You're sitting on the bench, you're watching your guys, you're hoping that somebody's going to come up with a big hit. You've got the bases loaded, unable to deliver. You've got to be able to disassociate yourself with the offense unless you're involved in actually going to the plate. And you just wonder sometimes when there's a little disappointment when you're thinking, hey, we're going to get the lead back right here. I'm going to go out there with maybe a lead to protect, and you make a couple of lazy pitches. Next thing you know, you're down a run with a man on second base. That's Austin Bryce, first man up in the Reds bullpen.
I know you've been a big fan of Danny Darwin for a number of years. We know what kind of pitcher he was. What about pitching coach?
I liked him as a pitcher, Tom. He's just an old throwback guy, and the more I've gotten to know him here, I talked to him quite a bit in spring training, but I'm getting to know him a little bit more here. I like him a lot. I mean, just a very simplistic throwback approach, and talks to guys at the human level. Now, I know he has a lot of notes given to him by the analytics guys and so on, but he keeps his own notes. He calls them the old-fashioned kind, and he writes certain stuff down that he thinks are very important and that got him through a 21-year career.
We've talked about it before, but he was some kind of pitcher, man, and he could do everything. He could close a game for you, set up a game for you, start a game for you. I mean, he won 174 major league games with a career ERA at 3.5.
I mean, you make a lot of adjustments along the way, and you pitch that long, you're going to get knocked down a few times, and you got to figure out a way to crawl back up. And it's not all about, mechanics and trying to get a guy to stay on top of a pitch and worry about where his weight is and so on. Sometimes it's preparing him for the game. Sometimes it's being a big brother. Sometimes it's being the tough, hard love coach, that some players need that motivates them. You have to find out what your guys are all about and individually take care of that.
Caught by Peraza, and thank you very much, Adrianza. Thank you very much.
One of the things that the Twins this year have really prided themselves on, and they tell me they work on it quite a bit, is their base running. They're trying to be ultra aggressive all the time, knowing that they don't have a lot of hitters that are going to hit the ball out of the ballpark. They try to get the extra jump early on, and that was just misread really from the lead Adrianza had, and didn't think that ball was going to come down in time for the shortstop to get it.
All right, so the base is empty, 3-1 Twins in front, and here's Mauer, who has grounded out twice to Scooter Gennett. They're already in the bottom of the 5th inning as well in Chicago. Cubbies 1, Milwaukee 0. You saw that highlight a moment ago of Javier Baez. I was starting to ask you the question. When we saw Baez first come up the last 2 months, that first season, when he struck out like 100 times and 200 at bats, remember that?
Boy, did he have a big swing.
I would have lost so much money about what kind of offensive player he was going to be. Defensively, you knew he could do everything. He's a great athlete. I mean, he can play anywhere, do anything. But it is a credit to him and whoever was helping him basically reinvent himself as an offensive player.
Well, I think also, Tom, the Cubs gave him an opportunity with the team surrounded by a lot of good hitters to fail and to figure out what it's all about, because until you get to the major leagues, you really don't know what kind of player you're going to be. So you can be as good as you can be in AAA. Once you get to the big leagues, believe me, you're going to fail. You're going to have to figure it out, and you're going to have some problems along the way. That's why I think if you've got top prospects that you think are going to be big league players, get them up here, let them fail, and then let them get an earlier start on becoming a good big leaguer. Like the Braves have done with a couple of their young players.
Oh, yeah, you got a 20-year-old and a 21-year-old in the same lineup. They both homered in the same game the other day in Cincinnati. You want to talk about getting to the big leagues right now? How about the guy that's the manager of this Minnesota team? We told you, born and raised here, played collegiately for the Golden Gophers. He was drafted the 3rd overall pick in the first round of 1977 by the Brewers. He played a grand total of 64 games, 1 year, a half year in the minor leagues, and he was in the major leagues next year as a full-time player starting 125 games. Des Rosario can hit a little bit. I know he's off to a slow start this year, but these last 2 days he swung a good bat, and the day is over for Romano in the 5th inning. 89 pitches. He walked Mauer with 2 outs after he got the double play. Now gives up the line drive, and to the bullpen it'll be Austin Bryce, our Skyline Chili call to the pen. Each and every Sunday home game this season, thanks to our good friends over at Klosterman Bakery. You can get half-price Reds tickets, enjoy live mascot races, face painters, carnival games. We got it all going on. See your Reds in action and save for tickets. Visit Reds.com. Minnesota with a 3-1 lead. They score 3 times in the last inning plus off Sal Romano, and he's taken out of the game after a 2-out walk and a single. He's allowed 4 base runners in this 5th inning, helped by a double play. And now taking over, and well, you talking about a guy on a really nice run right now. It would be Austin Bryce. He has not allowed a run in any of his last 4 outings, and over that stretch he has only allowed 3 base runners. It's the longest active scoreless streak by any Reds pitcher by game. Ball pulled foul, and it's 0-2 on Eduardo Escobar. He had an RBI double to tie the game in the 4th. Austin may have gotten away with one right there. Fouling it back is Escobar. And the count remains at 0 balls and 2 strikes. Ooh, I didn't miss by much. Bryce wanted that call.
Boy, that was a very tantalizing pitch that he just painted right on the outside black. A little breaking ball that certainly catches the plate.
Mesoraco was set up inside. It came in the side gate on the outer edge. That's a strike.
Well, I think also the way he caught that ball kind of pushed the glove down to the ground. Doesn't matter as he gets a strikeout right here.
This guy's really pitching well. Done a nice job. Big league.
By authority of the Cincinnati Reds, it may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Every weekday morning, Skip Bayless, Shannon Sharp go head-to-head on the day's hottest sports topics. Undisputed weekdays, 9:30 a.m. to noon Eastern, only on FS1, streaming on Fox Sports Go. We go to inning number 6. Reds on the short end of a 3-1 game. Jake Odorizzi pitched an excellent game his first start, but came in his last 2 starts having allowed 5 home runs, 9 runs total in 9 innings on the mound. And after giving up a solo home run to Schebler in the 2nd inning, that's the only run he's allowed in the game today. The Reds left him loaded on 2 walks and a hit in the 5th inning. Of course, Votto is 1 home run today shy of matching a franchise record. You see some of the names. Boy, I mean, you're talking about some of the all-time great names. Klazuski, Bench, Griffey Jr., Jay Bruce, the most recent in 2016 to homer in 5 straight games for the Reds. Votto trying to make it 5 in a row with that hearty cut.
Adam Dunn going into the Reds Hall of Fame this summer.
Yes, he is. It's the first time for Votto he's ever homered in 4 straight games. I know that, Chris, you're excited. You're going to be a big part of that Hall of Fame induction weekend with A guy really you helped grow up a little bit around Cincinnati, and Adam Dunn.
Well, I don't know about that part of it, but I certainly saw him launch a lot of balls into that moon deck. Hit the ball a long way. I know he's excited about that. The big donkey, as we like to affectionately refer to Adam Dunn. He'll be back in town in June, and you'll be part of that ceremony. It's a great dinner, that Hall of Fame dinner.
Oh, it sure is. It's one of the, we do it every other year, as many of you know.
Well, Tom Woodring, the home plate umpire, getting a little bit of his ear chewed off right now by that Twins dugout on the first base side. They thought that was a strike.
Straight up into the air. He just got underneath it. And who's going to call for it? It'll be the right fielder, Grossman. And Votto retired to start the 6th inning. Now Scooter Gennett settles in. Takes a fastball away. Romano goes 4 2/3 innings. Surrenders 6 hits, 3 runs, all earned. He struck out 1 and walked 2. Reds and manages 3 base hits and a single run off the Minnesota starter Odorizzi. He has struck out 3 batters, walked 2. They both came in the last inning, as we mentioned a moment ago. One of those walks, an intentional walk, that was to Winker to load him up in front of Peraza. And he got Jose on a fly ball to center to get out of the inning. 2 balls and a strike on Scooter Gennett. Started 2 and takes it off the outside edge.
You know, Tom, as we get a close-up of Jake Odorizzi, you see the caps on the Minnesota Twins. Now, if you're a long baseball fan, you know what the TC means on a Twins cap. But a lot of people are just tuning in where the Reds haven't played the Twins in many, many years, may not know that what the TC stands for. Of course, Minneapolis is right across the river from another city named St. Paul, and they call it the Twin Cities. And that's what the TC stands for here in Minnesota.
I've been over to St. Paul for a while, but I'm told that that area is kind of happening over there these days. That's kind of, you know, undergone a rebirth in the downtown area and so forth. I'd like to go check it out sometime.
Well, you're here tonight.
Yeah, might have to do it.
You're going to wait another. Reds have last been here in 2001.
Yeah, but I've been here all the time.
Why don't you fast forward your clock another 17 years? See
I'm here a lot.
About going out.
A lot. I mean, we were here so frequently during football season just this year. And most of the time with our NFL crew, you know, you'll pick spots downtown in every city, whatever it might be, and you know, they got a bunch of places to go around here, but we were starting to get out of the town a little bit. We had been here so frequently. 1-0 the count on Suarez. Chased one down and away. Good breaking ball there from Odorizzi.
He really mixes his pitches up. I mean, he legitimately has 6 different pitches that he throws. 2 fastballs, a 4-seamer and a sinker, cutter, slider, changeup, and splitter. I mean, the catcher really needs more than 5 fingers to adequately catch him.
Line drive dropped by the third baseman, and they might get a double play out of it. No. Good for Suarez to keep running.
Well, your first tendency as a hitter is the ball comes off the bat, it goes right at the fielder, and you just stop. You're like, oh, okay. But then as soon as it comes out, you've got to book it down the line again. And that's what made this so close at first base.
The fielder's choice. He had scored for Suarez, and here's Schebler. Hit a long home run to right center field back in the second inning. Chased a high fastball, swinging and missing for strike 3 in the 5th. Reds are down 2, but thunder at the plate in the form of Scott Schebler. Well, the Twins went through a pile of pitchers last night, and one of them, Presley, is cranking it up in their bullpen. Nothing in 1 on Schebler. You know, you and I were talking about this before the game, and you really have to be, look, we have the greatest job in the world. We're blessed to have this job, and you get paid to talk about and watch baseball every single day, and we travel year after year after year. You're, what, 25, 27 years now?
26.
26. And now I'm 31. And it used to be you had umpires that worked the National League and umpires that worked the American League.
Mm-hmm.
Now they work both leagues. They have their crew and they travel wherever you want. But there is a very noticeable difference in terms of the pace of the game when you go play in an American League ballpark. Now, naturally, the first thing to say is, well, they have a designated hitter. The game's going to be longer. There's a fly ball to center field, and this will end the inning. But it's deeper than that. And it's really hard to put a finger on as to why. What we do know is Odorizzi's pitching a good ball game here today and leads 3-1. Weekend series finally at home. That's May the 5th. The first 20,000 fans will receive a Eugenio Suarez bobblehead presented by John Morrell. See your Reds in action. You can be there as low as $12. For tickets, visit Reds.com. Max Kepler to lead things off against Austin Bryce. He got the final out in the Twins' 5th inning. Minnesota with a 3-1 lead, batting here in the bottom of the 6th. Minneapolis is one of those rare towns. There aren't a lot of them. You know, naturally, the mega cities, the three monsters, Chicago, LA, and New York, are going to have it. But there aren't a lot of other cities in the country that have professional baseball, professional football, an NBA team, and an NHL team.
Arizona or Phoenix.
Well, again, that's because that's starting to knock on the door with Houston and Dallas as one of the, you know, mega cities, huge cities, Philadelphia. And they also have an MLS team here in Minneapolis. This is a much bigger city than I think a lot of people think it is. Sort of stuck out here on its own island in this part of the country. By far the largest city for miles and miles and miles and miles. Line drive caught by Joey Votto.
A sizzling line drive here. Kepler really lays into this one.
It's another one off the bat for a left-handed batter at 112 miles per hour exit velocity on that rocket by Kepler. But you know, the point of even bringing that up is that they've really done such a nice job. And Chris, you told a story yesterday about why they don't have a retractable dome here, because of the size of the land and where they wanted to wedge it in here. You know, just on the edge of downtown. There's a ground ball to the right side. Scooter will play it off his belly and throws out Grossman. But if you stay right in the middle of the city, it's really cool because, you know, unless it's a dead of winter, you can walk to any of these sporting venues that they have here in Minnesota. The Target Center is right out there, right next door. We showed you that outside the right field line. And then, of course, the football stadium where they played this year's Super Bowl. That's a few blocks roughly the other way from where we're staying, right in the middle of downtown.
I just can't get over how green the grass is here at Target Field, given the fact that it's been snowing all spring. And even in the dead of winter, though, Tom, there's such a complex system of skywalks.
Yeah.
You can go from just about any building in this city to any other building without ever having to go outside.
Of course, we have a smaller version of that in Cincinnati, but this is a much larger city and connecting all of that. And really, that's where all the action is on the second floor, if you will. You know what I mean? Where you have the connecting, so all the food courts and the places you go to lunch and the shopping and all that kind of thing tends to not be on the ground level when you're navigating your way in and around Minneapolis during the wintertime, especially. Minnesota has a left-hander getting ready in their bullpen. That's Zach Duke. We did not see him in the game last night. Rice is trying to get through a 1-2-3-6. Reds will have Duvall, Mesoraco, and Hamilton, the scheduled batters in the seventh. And obviously, being an American League game, you don't have to worry about hitting for the pitcher. So as far as we know, Odorizzi is still in the game. Three balls and a strike on Morrison.
You know, this particular outing shows me a lot for Austin Brice, because as we mentioned over the last, today and yesterday, Tom, about how many left-handers they can send up against you. And if you don't have a lot of left-handers in your bullpen, they have a tendency to wear right-handed pitching out. In this inning, he's faced all lefties. Last inning, he struck out Escobar, a switch hitter. Grossman's a switch hitter. Just got him on a ground ball. That many lefties in a row can be somewhat unnerving to a right-handed pitcher, unless you have that weapon, that little change-up, or that goes away, or maybe an ability to throw a backdoor breaking ball. Especially when you throw from kind of a lower arm angle the way that Austin Brice does.
So he walks Morrison with two away, and these bottom two in the order have done some major damage in this game. Mitch Garver a double in the 3rd inning down the right field line, then hit a line drive home run his last time up in the 5th. And he's batting in the 8th spot. Number 9 hitter on deck. Adrianza has walked and doubled. Get a little fine here. 2 balls and no strikes. Fastball right down the middle there. Surprised that Garver would take that pitch away. He's swinging the bat today. They started later than we did, but they've gone right by us at Wrigley Field. They're in the 7th inning of a 1-0 game. Cubs in front. And they're just underway in San Francisco. The Dodgers and the Giants. Great rivalry. Breaking ball in there to even the count. And they're also just underway in the nation's capital, where Arizona opened that series with a victory last night. Diamondbacks have the best record in the National League. Breaking ball away. You know, that's a franchise, obviously, Chris, I worked for a long, long time. They're celebrating their 20th anniversary this year, and they're making a big deal out of it, as you can imagine. But it's incredible how many times that franchise has been to the playoffs in just their short lifespan. And they look like the best team in the league this year, swinging a foul ball back out of play. Now, we're only a month into the season, so, you know, that could change. They were in the postseason a year ago. And they've gone through, you know, 3, 4, 5 regime changes there, an ownership change there. Some of the same people with the same money in the team. The general managers, after their Joe Garagiola Jr. was their first GM. There's a swing and a miss, and that'll end the inning. Austin Bryce is really pitching well. A scoreless inning, he walks about it. We go to the 7th, where the Twins lead the Reds. Scoring in the 2nd inning, Scott Schebler launching a breaking ball off the facing of the 2nd deck here at Target Field. Stay that way until the 4th inning, when Escobar, with Rosario at first, doubled into right. Rosario would score. Escobar would go to 3rd on an error by Jesse Winker, and then he would score on a sacrifice fly to break the tie. Garver, a tack-on run with a solo home run in the 5th. And that's where we stand. It's a 3-1 game in favor of Minnesota. Reds batting in the 7th. Odorizzi came limping into this one. 9 innings pitched, 9 earned runs his last 2 starts, including 5 home runs. Today he's just allowed the solo shot to Schebler and 3 other hits. Adam Duvall to lead things off. He'll be followed by Devin Mesoraco and then Billy Hamilton. Duvall is popped to right and drawn a walk. I mean, look, make no mistake. We talked about Odorizzi come limping into this start, and what he had done his last 2 against 2 really good hitting teams, in the Indians and the Yankees. But he's a much better pitcher than those 2 starts. This guy has had good success at the big league level for a number of years. Chris brought up earlier, he's bounced around, but he's been a good solid pitcher.
Well, he's a right around a 500 pitcher. I think he's 41-40 in his career. Double-digit wins, you know, up around the same number of losses every year. You know, he slots in good at a number, 4 or 5 guy in a good rotation. But the way he's pitching today shows you that, he's got the ability to work the ball around the zone a little bit, elevate that fastball, and just get hitters who, are trying to launch. Nowadays with these hitters who are trying to, supposedly get the ball in the air more, they make themselves susceptible to those guys who throw that fastball high.
Well, it's interesting. He even though they are completely different kinds of pitchers, he reminds you a lot in many ways, although his career numbers from an ERA standpoint are far superior to Homer Bailey. But they're basically a number, a 500 pitcher. In fairness to both, they've only been with what you would call, really good teams a couple of years. Homer had that stretch where the Reds went to the playoffs 3 out of 4 years. But when he first came up, the Reds weren't very good. In these last couple of years, he's been hurt. But both of them are basically 500 pitchers. But Odorizzi, you have a career ERA as a starter in the American League at 3.8. That's pretty good. It's really good. That ball driven to straightaway center field, and that is over the head of Kepler. So Duvall with a ground rule double, and a nice way to get it started here in the Reds' 7th inning.
Well, Duvall had a couple of doubles last night, including in his last at bat, one that went into right center field. And again, I say the same thing about Suarez you would say about Duvall, that once he starts hitting that ball between the gaps, that's when you're really beginning to kind of gel a little bit. And with that solid contact, Paul Molitor makes his way to the mound.
So Odorizzi goes 6+. He allows 5 hits so far, just the 1 run. Gets a nice round of applause. Strikes out 3, walks 2, 1 intentionally. Reds down 2. Reds and a Twin wrapping up this 3-game series in Minnesota. Our coverage on Fox Sports Ohio and Fox Sports Go begins at 1:30 with Reds Live. Game coverage to follow at 2. April in the OHIO presented by Menards. Guy been around a long time, has had a solid career. First as a starter, we saw him frequently back in those days as a Pittsburgh Pirate. But he has been used exclusively out of the bullpen since Zach Duke. And there's a base hit into right field by Mesoraco. They had a big ship put on him. Got jammed and just muscled it through the right side. And now the Reds have him on the corners with nobody out.
Well, it was a ball that just kind of stayed on the inner third. And I think Mesoraco was thinking going to right field the entire time. Stayed behind that ball very nicely. So the tying run's on base now.
Hamilton had a chance to drive in a run with runners at second and third in the 5th inning, and he popped up to the shortstop. He'll bat with a runner at third, a runner at first, and nobody out. Reds down 2 here in the 7th.
Ever since Zach Duke was converted from a starter to a reliever, and he started the first 6 years of his big league career, as you said, Tom, all of them with the Pittsburgh Pirates. All-star in 2009, but ever since that time he was converted to a reliever, he always has had more games appeared in than innings pitched.
Holy Moses. This will be another out. One away in the inning. Runners on the corners, and here comes Jesse Winker, who was struck out swinging, fly to center, was intentionally walked. His last time in the 5th inning, that's when they loaded the bases in front of Peraza and got Jose out to end the inning. Breaking ball sweeps away from Winker. See if Winker can pick up Hamilton. Billy for the 2nd time today with a runner at third and less than 2 outs, pops the ball straight up into the air. Breaking ball in there, a strike. Mesoraco, the runner held on by Maurer at first. Duvall, the runner at third. And now Duke gets ahead of Jesse Winker at a ball and 2 strikes. Jim Riggleman's team able to pile up the runs and the hits last night. 15 runs, 20 base hits, both season highs. Struck him out swinging, and that's a 2nd out of the inning.
Duke has made a living for a long time doing exactly what he did in that at bat to Jesse Winker. You speed him up with the fastball going away, and then you drop the slow breaking ball on him, and it just never seems to get there, like trying to hit a frisbee.
Runner still on the corners now. 2 outs for Peraza. He had a bases loaded chance in the 5th. Made good contact, but a fly ball right at the center fielder. Jose's been on a pretty good run here lately. 1 for 3 today. He had a bunt single in the 4th. See if he can come up with a big 2-out hit and give Votto a chance in this inning. It's lifted into short right, and this will retire the side. Big chance missed right there. 1st and 3rd and nobody out, and you come up empty.
1956. Frank Robinson hits the first of his 586 home runs, the first 324 of which came in a Reds uniform. It was a 9-1 win over the Cubs. And Frank, first home run in his 8th game of his Hall of Fame career. What a player, what a player.
What a player is right. I mean, I've made the comment many, many times before, and there are people going to argue this. I said last year that I thought Joey Votto would go down as by far the best offensive player in the history of the Cincinnati Reds franchise. The entire package we're talking about as Dylan Floro takes over on the mound. I qualified that by saying that had Frank Robinson played his entire career with the Reds instead of that just brutal trade that was made sending him to the Baltimore Orioles, by far the worst in Reds franchise history, that he would have gone down as the best offensive player in Reds history. You agree with that?
It's so difficult.
600 bombs.
Yeah, I mean, it is just so difficult to start comparing across generations. I don't know. I leave that argument for people that are smarter and know more about those older players than I did. I mean, I had favorite players. Frank Robinson was one of them. But, I mean, how do you argue with the guy that had more hits than anybody in history?
Well, there's no doubt. But, Robinson's one of those players like Mays, like Mantle, that just have numbers that are just Aaron. They're in a different galaxy altogether. I mean, you're talking about almost 3,000 hits, almost 600 home runs, driving in over 1,800 runs. Career on base, career all. No. I'm saying if the numbers had finished, if he'd had those same numbers staying with the Reds. Career on base percentage of .390. His average season was 34 home runs and 105 runs batted in. And a career .294 batter. Off the glove of Floro, and a fortunate bounce to the second baseman Jeanette. And this guy, of course, he won a Triple Crown. The Reds traded him at the end of the 1965 season. All he did that year was hit 33 home runs and knock in 103 runs. Played in every game. The next year in Baltimore, he hit 49 home runs, knocked in 122, and won the Triple Crown. The famous line uttered, "He's an old 30." Well, when he got to the Baltimore Orioles, it was Hammer City. Then he would bounce around at the end of his career, of course. 1 year with the Dodgers, California Angels, a couple of years, and then his last 3 where he was a player manager, of course, with the Cleveland Indians. Floro's another guy that's done a pretty nice job for the Reds since coming on board this season. Wednesday and Thursday against Atlanta, the first time in his career he had pitched on consecutive days. He had that really nice relief outing, 3 scoreless innings last Sunday in St. Louis.
It's kind of interesting, really, all the evaluation and all the different names that are bantered around and talked about in spring training, and some of the guys who are kind of under the radar, they're the ones who are getting the job done, especially right now. Austin Bryce had a good outing today. He's on a roll. And Dylan Floro, didn't hear much about him at all.
Shift perfectly on Dozier, and then the throw. That'll be an error on Jeanette.
Well, the shift was perfect. I mean, this ball is right to Scooter Jeanette. It goes up through the middle, which is back in the old days is a base hit, but there's Jeanette standing right there. The sidearm flip gets away from him.
You make the accurate throw with that sidearm flip, all is fine and dandy. But when you're making that throw, there will be frequently, and we've seen a few of them already this year, where those balls can sail. And it happens again to Jeanette here with 1 out in the 7th inning. So Joe Mauer, the batter, with a count of 1 ball and 1 strike. Mauer has bounced to the second baseman Jeanette twice and then drew a walk in the 5th. That was the 3rd trip to the plate for Mauer, all against Romano. Romano would leave the game after giving up a base hit to the following hitter, Rosario. Cubs have added to their lead 3-0 now over Milwaukee in the bottom of the 7th inning. Floro paints the outside corner, a fastball strike at the knees.
Mauer walked 3 times yesterday, has walked once today. Now 35 years old, just turned 35 last week. One of the lines that was in the local paper here while the Twins were away playing on that long road trip that took them through San Juan, Puerto Rico, and then Tampa Bay, and then New York, was that Mauer left at age 34 and came back at age 35.
It's a good line.
I know a good line when I steal one.
Amen. Nothing wrong with that. You got 2 guys here that have their whole routine they go through. We've talked about Floro. We talked about it during the Atlanta series. He walks behind the mound every pitch, rubs the ball up. Now, he's in the stretch right now, so it's a little bit different than when he's in his regular windup, where he puts that glove right up under his nose before he goes into his windup. And there's a liner into left field, a base hit. And Mauer, his first hit today, has been on base twice. And the Twins making a little noise after the error by Jeanette. 2 on with 1 out. Coming up later, we'll have our Hold True moment, brought to you by Miller Lite. There were a whole bunch of them last night for the Redlegs. 15 runs and 20 hits, and now a visit to the mound by Mesoraco before Rosario comes to the plate. They have a runner at second to make sure they're A-OK on the signs, as Devin will have to get more than one with that runner out there at second base. It's funny, you look over there at first and you see Mauer carrying on a conversation with Votto over there. You know, you look around baseball and it really is amazing how many players come from cold weather climates. I mean, think about, we were in Milwaukee a couple of weeks ago. You know, their high school baseball season, Chris, you were talking about it, you know, goes into June and July just so they can get games in. Imagine for Votto growing up outside Toronto, Mauer growing up here. Freezing conditions in the springtime regularly. And yet two of the better guys over the long haul. Swing and a miss by Rosario, and he's gone on strikes for the second out of the inning.
It's a big out right there because he was swinging the bat well, had a couple of hits on the day, Rosario did. Lefty that chases a fastball just up and out of the zone right here. He got a little bit too anxious. And now Escobar, the switch hitter.
Escobar struck out twice, but an RBI double sandwiched in between and has scored a run. Down the left field line. This is trouble if it stays fair. And it will go foul. I mean, guys running all over the field. You got Mauer cutting back through the infield. You got Dozier cutting through the infield, going from home to second base. Obviously, the Reds scouting report says this young man does not pull the ball because Votto is a solid 20 feet, maybe more, off that first base line.
Well, his double earlier in the game was right down the right field line.
Trying to pitch around an error in this inning, and that stands him up or knocks him down, one or the other. Down to his knees goes Escobar, and that high tight fastball. A ball and 2 strikes. Reds will have Votto, Jeanette, and Suarez due up in the 8th inning.
Little drama there. That ball wasn't even that far in.
Gone swinging, and excellent work by Floro. A 4-out inning. Reds will bat in the 8th. They're down by 2. changes, 3 of them. Kepler goes from center field over to right field, taking over now in center. Former Red, Ryan Lamar. Good to see he's doing well and sticking in the big leagues. And here's a guy who's been at it for a long time. He's been a setup man, been a closer, and he has been a good one for a long time. Addison Reed.
Well, he's got 125 saves in his major league career, spanning over 8 years. Been on a lot of different teams. The White Sox, Diamondbacks, Mets. Last year is with the Boston Red Sox. And he was brought on here to be a bridge to their closer, Fernando Rodney. This is one of those situations, Tom, where you've got to close, you got a save situation in the 9th inning. But this inning, the 8th inning, is really the toughest one for the opposing pitcher to go through. You're starting off with Votto, Jeanette, and Suarez in the middle of the lineup. If he gets them out in order or pitches to 4 batters in this inning, the closer comes in the next inning and he faces the bottom third of the lineup. But he gets all the glory.
And the cash.
Good gig if you can get it.
You know, it seems like you went through and talked about the teams that Reed has pitched for. You know, it seems like he'll go somewhere and the team that brings him in thinks they're going to be a contending team. And then all of a sudden they're not a contending team. And then he'll get dealt as there's ball 4 to Votto, so the Reds will bring the tying run to the plate. He'll get dealt sometimes as a trade deadline deal, or maybe at the end of the year for a team, again, that thinks they're going to be a contender. I mean, you just mentioned some of the teams he's played for between Arizona and Boston. You know, they seem to be contenders on a semi-regular basis. Certainly the Red Sox more than Arizona. But Reed pitched for the Mets. They had some decent clubs. All right, here's Jeanette representing the tying run here in the 8th inning. Scooter shows bunt, takes a strike. Three runs, 7 hits for the Twins. 1 run, 6 hits, 2 errors for the Reds. Each team has left 7 on base. The Reds left them loaded in the 5th. They left 2 on in the 7th. And in both of those innings, they had a runner at third with less than 2 men out. See if they can finally break through. The only run came when Scott Schebler homered with 2 outs and nobody on in the 2nd inning. Ball and 1 strike on Jeanette. Votto over at first, and that's at the knees. I'm not sure Scooter agreed with the home plate umpire Tom Woodring. Ted Barrett, the crew chief, is down at first base today. Lance Barksdale at second and Will Little at third. This crew's done a nice job through the first 2 games of this series. Still 1-2 on Scooter.
Reed does it with what you would think. I mean, if you're just grading his stuff on a scouting scale, you're thinking, you know, I don't know how he's doing it. His fastball average is about 91, which is well below major league average. He doesn't have an off-speed pitch other than a slider, so he's basically a 2-pitch pitcher. But he always has a good strikeout to walk ratio. His control is good, and it means he commands his fastball.
Down the right field line, but pulled foul. Hit it hard. Still a ball and 2 strikes on Jeanette. Out of a very short lead over there at first base for the leadoff walk. 2-2. Pretty good battle going on here between Reed and Scooter Gennett. A little better than 27,000 here today. 27,115 for this 1 o'clock start time.
Gennett just tried to slice that ball down the left field line on a fastball. I imagine Reed's coming back down here with a, well, maybe a setting up outside. I would think breaking ball, but fastball just off the corner.
He wanted that call, didn't get it. Boy, he's not happy either.
That pitch is not outside.
Wow.
Now, the catcher didn't move his glove a bit. Just kind of held it there for emphasis.
3-2 the count. Broken bat, there's one, and this will be a double play to end the inning. Or for the first 2 outs, I beg your pardon.
Grabbed right at the bag by the first baseman. He steps on the bag, fires to the shortstop. Votto doesn't really know that the tag's been made at first base. So he's sliding to get out of the way of the turn, and as it turns out, they just run him down and tag him out. Double play any way you cut it.
So the base is empty, 2 are out, and here's Suarez, who's 0 for 3 today. Had a double taken away on a terrific diving play right on the third base line by the third baseman Escobar, his first time up. And now Reed to the plate, and it's hit hard in a deep left center field. And battling the sun and able to make the play is Rosario. What a nice play that was, looking straight back up into the sun. Concert series. Chart-topping country singer Jake Owen will be performing a live concert on the field at Great American Ballpark Saturday, August the 11th. If you have a ticket to the game, you can stick around for the show. Buy your tickets now at Reds.com. You like a little country music every now and again. I've seen you out doing a two-step, you and Beth from time to time.
I don't know if you've seen us do the two-step, but yeah, you're right. We like to mix it up a little bit. That'll be a great concert.
Oh, yeah. He's very, very popular. I guess, you know, it's funny how those acts, they start off, especially in country music. It seems like those guys, some of them, it takes so long to finally get to the top that a lot of times those guys won't be until they're, you know, mid-30s, late 30s before they're hitting it big. That's not the case for this young man. Minnesota a 3-1 lead, batting in the bottom of the 8th with 1 out. Another excellent job by this Reds bullpen today. They did sensational work last night behind Castillo. And now here you hand the ball today to both Austin Bryce and Dylan Floro. And they're just getting people out.
Well, I think it's even especially worth commenting that they are facing almost all left-handed hitters. I mean, that can be very tough for right-handed relievers. They're not used to seeing that. Finally get a right-hander here in former Red Ryan Lamar.
Always liked this young man. He grew up in Michigan, played collegiately for the Wolverines, and he was a regular on our caravan, the group that I travel with every year, and just a delightful kid. Glad to see that he's continuing his major league career. Of course, he had the big base hit in Puerto Rico when that game went into extra innings, went all the way to the 16th inning, and he got the game-winning hit.
Number 2 pick for the Reds in 2010, right after Yasmani Grandal,
who has been unconscious so far this year. Grandal, base hit center field. Boy, the ball just jumps off Logan Morrison's bat. I know he's never been much of a batting average guy, but man, he makes contact.
Well, he takes a big, strong guy, and I mean, it's impressive when he takes batting practice. He's one of those guys in a BP, you really don't even need to watch him, you just hear him. But the question is, can he catch up with big league fastballs? Can he adjust to the big league breaking ball? Batting average, as you said, has never been great. He strikes out a lot, but when he hits it.
He had 38 bombs last year in Seattle, and that's not an easy place to make a living hitting home runs.
Well, that's one reason why they've been very patient with him here in the first part of the season, because he's really been in a slump. I mean, a horrendous slump. Figuring that you just get him enough at bats or all numbers will eventually be there.
2 down for the catcher. Garver, been a good day for him. A double, a solo home run, struck out his last time up. Tapper down to third, foul. Logan Morrison has not attempted a stolen base this season, and you wonder exactly how many he will attempt this year. Although a throw over will keep him close. 1 ball and 2 strikes on Garver. And that's strike 3 call. Good work by Floro. 2 shutout innings. 2 hits allowed, but the Reds one more crack at him, trailing by a pair.
Reds Live, the pregame edition, as always brought to you by Ray St. Clair Roofing. Tomorrow, it will be 2 Canadian MVPs going one-on-one in an interview. Justin Morneau, Joey Votto.
What I care about the most, to be honest with you, is games played. That's the thing I think about the most, because if you're a good player, if you play a lot, it means the manager is basically saying you're a good enough player that in any situation against any pitcher, night game, day game, no matter what, I want you on the field because I trust you to run the bases, to play quality defense, and obviously take a good at bat.
So Morneau is asking him what he's most proud of and what he likes the best in his arsenal. It's games played, and there is Morneau right there. A couple of Canadians. You'll see Paul Bunyan. Let me say it like Tom. Paul Bunyan. And you'll see the full interview tomorrow on Reds Live.
Love that nickname.
Give it to us one more time.
Fernando Rodney takes over on the mound. And over describing it next door, Justin Morneau, a.k.a. Paul Bunyan.
Yes.
Boy, has he been around a long time.
Yes, he has.
16 years. He is now 41 years old. Rodney, he has accumulated 302 saves in his major league career. 2 this year in 8 appearances. Of course, a lot of that has to do with the dismal record the Twins have put on the board so far. Forcing his fastball, now he's got a 3-0 count.
Well, Rodney has really struggled. I know he has a ton of career saves, and most among all active pitchers. He's bounced a lot in his major league career, but this crowd is going to be on him in a hurry.
Well, he had 39 last year, so the Twins are wondering what happened. Did he all of a sudden just fall off a cliff here and then lose the ability to get hitters out?
You take a look at 14, he only had 3, blew up in 15. 16-3. With the Diamondbacks last year, as you mentioned, had 6. And already 3 of them the early part of this year, and those are the killer losses. I mean, you know, you get the 3 wins in those games you should win when you're bringing on your closer. I mean, right now the Twins are 11-10 instead of 8-13 and lost 8 games in a row. During that 8-game losing streak, he's blown a couple on the just completed road trip.
Well, you know, the save thing is such a wide statistic. I mean, some are very tight saves. You have a 1-run lead. Other times you come in with a 3-run lead and the bottom of the lineup coming up. But you still get a save for each of them, although one is much more difficult to nail down than the other.
Reed works a scoreless, hitless inning, as did Zach Duke. Can't say enough good things about the combination of Bryce and Floro today. 3 1/3 innings of 2 hits, shutout baseball, struck out 5, walked only 1. But today it's been a good Minnesota bullpen as well, and they got an excellent start from Odorizzi. This is in the air, short left center. Lamar over to get it. And that's a first out here in the Reds' 9th inning, trailing 3-1. Certainly home run power here. With Mesoraco stepping to the plate. He's had a good day today. A couple of hits, including a double off the wall in the 5th inning, singled his last time up. That was a slow roller to the right side against a shift. Started 2, and it's ball 1. Tucker Barnhart has moved into the on-deck circle and would hit for Billy Hamilton should we get that far. And it's 2-0 now on Devin Mesoraco. Rodney, of course, has always worn that hat off center, tilted slightly to the left. Well, there was a time when he was pitching in the, and I'm not going to remember the young man's name. He was the hardest thrower in baseball at the time with the Detroit Tigers at reliever. It was just incredible in that run they had to the World Series, and then he got hurt and was never heard from again. But they had him and Rodney in that bullpen as setup guys.
Yeah, you're thinking Joel Zumaya.
Yeah, Zumaya, right.
In fact, there was one game back in 2006, I think was the first time that they had recorded 3 pitchers from the same team throwing 100 miles per hour in the same game. It was Verlander, Zumaya, and Rodney.
Golly day, could that Zumaya throw the ball? What a shame he was hurt so young. And there's another walk. Until yesterday, you know, the Twins had not played a home game here in Minnesota since April the 12th, and a lot of bad things have happened for Fernando Rodney since then. This is his first game. Did not pitch last night, and he's hearing it. I think that's Rosel Herrera, who's coming on to run for Mesoraco.
And Tucker Barnhart pinch hitting for Billy Hamilton. I think the second time in a week that Barnhart has pinch hit for Hamilton. I'm not sure prior to this week Billy Hamilton had ever been pinch hit for him.
I'll be honest with you, I was surprised that Jim Riggleman didn't do it again in the 7th inning today after Hamilton came up a 2nd and 3rd and 1 out in the 5th and popped up. All right, here's Barnhart, and it's low ball 1.
Now the off-speed pitch that Fernando Rodney throws is the changeup. It's a good one. Right now he's having a hard time throwing anything in the strike zone.
And they say because he's had such a hard time finding the strike zone with a changeup that he's been hurt on fastballs. And now he's 2-0. There's no action in the Minnesota bullpen. This game belongs by hook or by crook to Fernando Rodney. He's walked 2 batters. See, he's thrown 11 balls against 4 strikes. Make it 11-5. Tucker drops it foul off to the 3rd base side out of play. So now Rodney, after starting Barnhart 2-0, is even a count. See if the Reds can get the big hit from Tucker. They're only down by 2 when they have 2 on with 1 out in the 9th. Broken bat flare, and Dozier out to get it. What a nice play that was. Got a good jump on that ball.
Well, he's playing in a step at double play depth right there, so he's got a step more to go out there. Dozier does, and he makes a nice running grab.
So the Reds are down to their final out, but they've got a good hitter coming to the plate here with 2 on and 2 out. Shoveler, the runner at second, drew a walk. Herrera running for Mesoraco at first, who walked. And here's Jesse Winker. Winker today is hitless, trying to keep that hit streak alive. Straight up in the air, and this is probably going to do it. And it will. 3-1 the final. Twins even this series at a game apiece. Reds strand 9 in the game. Had chances to score a number of occasions in this one and just couldn't get even a fly ball. We're back with more Target Field in Minnesota right after this.